Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back to the Fumble Live. We are getting into some news about the Lakers and Nets. Both of them beefed up their front courts, and I feel like this is who we're going to be seeing in the finals. ALVIN KAMARA also had a not-so-subtle tweet directed towards the NFL that we're going to be breaking down. But before we do all that, make sure you subscribe to our channel, tap the bell for notifications, give this video a thumbs up, leave a comment below. Now here's the Fumble Squad. I'm Devin Howard. You can find me on Instagram as @DevinHoward.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jackie Ray. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at JRayTheFanatic.
Jackie, tell me about your weekend. How was it?
Dude, I was parked in front of all the stuff that I said I was going to watch and do. I didn't do any of it. All I watched was NCAA this whole entire weekend. Which was fantastic. I had such a good time. It was mixed emotions because I definitely didn't want Creighton to win because of their head coach, but I was like, that's so wrong. You know, it should be more about the kids. But so I had mixed emotions about that. But I had a good weekend watching the NCAA men's tournament, which I need to be specific and say men's tournament because we need to talk about that at a later date. But yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, it sounds like you had a pretty relaxing weekend then. The opposite of mine. I felt like I was driving from one end of Southern California to the other end of Southern California, so I am exhausted. I even took a nap yesterday, which I never do, and I just conked out for 60 minutes. I can't remember the last time I napped, so I really needed it. I feel like I still need a nap, to be honest. It's been kind of a long weekend. What was that?
Nope, just a giggle.
Oh, don't you love being live, a virtual live show? Okay, let's get into our first need-to-know news story. This is about the Lakers and the Nets. So like I mentioned, both teams really beefed up their front courts. The Nets added LaMarcus Aldridge, and the Lakers acquired Andre Drummond. So both are making a solid push to distinguish themselves as title favorites. And I think a lot of people, even starting from the moment James Harden went to the Nets, I think a lot of people started to think, okay, this is going to be who we're seeing in the finals. And the Lakers have been very focused on trying to get that repeat championship. And of course, with AD and LeBron out right now, things are a little bit different, but I still believe they'll be there. I think they're going to end up in the finals. The Nets now have 41 All-Star appearances on their roster across LaMarcus, James Harden, KD, Kyrie, DeAndre Jordan, and Blake Griffin. And they also, through 46 games, have been leading in the NBA in offensive ratings. Now, for the Lakers, like I mentioned, Anthony Davis and LeBron have been out. AD's been out for the past 18 games, and LeBron has been out for the last 4, and he's expected to be missing several more weeks into the future. But acquiring Andre Drummond, I think, is going to give them a little bit of support. He's not going to be able to replace everything that LeBron does for his team, and it's honestly not going to come close, but I feel like he's going to be able to alleviate some of the physical pressure that's going to be put on AD so that there's just less of a toll on him, which is good, exactly what we need. We need AD to continue staying healthy and once he is recovered, to stay healthy so that we can have that solid playoff push.
My mom's literally trying to FaceTime me, and it popped up on my computer. Sorry.
Just answer it, Jackie.
What is that? No, yeah, so my mom can be like, hello. No, I'm not doing that.
So anyway, though, like I was saying, they made these acquisitions, and now let's talk about how these two match up, all right? So Jackie, what do you think the likelihood of is it for the finals to be the Nets versus the Lakers?
So I love your optimism because you still believe we'll be in the finals, and I definitely do too, just because I have faith in my team. But there's a huge difference between the Nets and the Lakers right now. We've had this conversation time and time again where I've said I believe you need a 100% healthy AD and you need a 100% healthy LeBron to actually get to the finals. The Nets have proven that KD can sit out and they can still win. The Lakers have not proven that they can do that without both of those individuals on the court. And now, with the way that they have built up their roster, any one of those guys can take several nights off and they'll be fine. So they've put themselves in a position where they are going to be unfazed by injuries. They're going to be unfazed if Kyrie needs a family day. They're going to be unfazed if James Harden gets caught up with some Instagram girl. They've put themselves in a position where all these things can happen and they can still succeed. The Lakers are in a position where, again, without AD and without LeBron, they are in a situation. And we've seen that. We've seen devastating losses without AD and LeBron on the floor. Now, we've seen losses without LeBron, but there's AD. We've seen losses without AD, but there's LeBron. But it's not, we don't have the squad where all the pressure doesn't lie squarely on the shoulders of LeBron and AD. So it's a totally different situation. There's a lot more pressure on those two individuals than there is anybody on the Nets. They can go in there and they can chill and they can do what they need to do. And then you add LaMarcus Aldridge in there, and it's like, to me, it's like that last scene of Endgame where all the Avengers came out of the Doctor Strange cloud, and everybody was just, we in here, and it's like, well, damn. Who I got. So it's just one of those things where I'm like, okay, this is a real situation. And I like our squad. Don't get me wrong. I love our squad, but it's not a squad that's free of pressure. Whereas I feel like the Nets, they're free of pressure. They can just go out there and do what they do best and not have to worry about if the next guy needs a day off. So it's an entirely different situation.
You're absolutely right. And the only reason I think I'm holding on to a bit of optimism is just because I am hoping that LeBron and AD can come back and be that dynamic duo that we saw in the finals last season, healthy, ready to go. Do you think that if LeBron and AD are able to beat the Nets all-star lineup, this is like a super team of all super teams, does that make the GOAT conversation just over?
Maybe for other people, the GOAT conversation has been over for me for a while. So,
right, but maybe, it's still a debate. People still love to debate it.
They do, and they, for whatever reason, they definitely love to debate it. But yeah, I think the fact that this team was built specifically after, LeBron and AD won that championship pretty much settles the GOAT conversation for me. We've seen this his whole career. The reason why the Warriors became who they were they built their team to beat LeBron. It is weird to me seeing that same kind of mentality happen, 18 years later. But yeah, this is specifically to beat the dynamic that is LeBron and AD. So, to me, that GOAT conversation. The second you start building teams to defeat a man, I'm not entertaining your disrespect of King James. I'm just not doing it.
Yep. Well, I feel the same way, Jackie. LeBron fan over here as well. He is for sure my GOAT. And I think that if LeBron and AD are able to walk away with the finals win against the Nets, if that's who we're seeing in the finals, I think that it would be very hard to argue with that kind of, GOAT conversation. And then final question for you before we move on to this ALVIN KAMARA news. If we do see the Lakers and the Nets in the finals, what do you think the outcome would be for that series?
Well, I think it would go 7 games. I don't have a prediction outside of that, to be honest with you, because, again, this is a situation where they are immune. If somebody gets injured, it's not even next man up as like far as somebody on the bench. Your whole starting squad is dope. And you just have this whole team of people that makes it, I'm going to show you a tweet when we get to the post up from Enes Kanter, which is 100% my feeling on it. So this is going to be one of those games where if it was the Nets and the Lakers in the finals, pins and needles the whole time. I'm gonna probably go through bottles of whiskey a game. Like, I'm just going to be so unnerved because it's going to be one of those things. And don't let AD or LeBron wince in any way. Even if it's just one of those quick little pains that comes and goes, my whole heart's going to stop. Because, again, you can't win without these two individuals. If KD goes out, so they've been winning without KD. So it's like, there's always going to be that level of uncertainty because of who the Nets are and because of how strong they are, right now. So I don't know. If they meet up in the finals, it's going to be interesting to see. What would be crazy to see though is if something went awry and the Nets didn't make it to the finals. With all that you guys have done, this unstoppable Marvel's team you got out here, if you guys didn't make it to the finals, then that's a whole different story. That's a whole different conversation. You do not build this team and not go to the finals. If they fail to go to the finals, all eyes are going to be, the conversation is going to be about, super teams are a thing of the past because here you could have all these amazing players and they couldn't even make it. So that's going to be the conversation. But I can't wait. I would love to see it because we didn't get the battle for LA that we wanted last season. I'm not interested in the battle of the LA this season. So this would be a dope battle to actually see go down if it does happen that way.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that one. Although we have seen that the playoffs are, and the postseason in general, it's just a different beast entirely. The teams that you think are front runners to be in the finals just sometimes end up disappearing in the playoffs. So it would be very surprising. Right now, I feel like there's no question the Nets are going to end up in the finals. I think it's almost impossible for them not to, but unless for whatever reason the pressure starts to get to them. But one thing is for sure, LeBron and AD are feeling a lot of pressure. I'm sure they have a lot of the weight and of the success of the team riding on their shoulders, which has got to be tough to deal with. LeBron's used to that kind of thing, but I mean, I still imagine it probably feels pretty heavy. Let's get into this Alvin KAMARA news, okay? So the NFL 17-week schedule is basically the worst fear for the players who are not fans of the new CBA, and because it gave them the power to add an extra game, which they actually did. And Alvin KAMARA summed up probably what a lot of people are feeling about it by just tweeting this: shit dumb as hell. Now, the reason he's probably feeling like this is just such a dumb move is because like we've talked about so many times on our show, football it's a dangerous sport. So much contact, so many opportunities to get a concussion, to hurt yourself. So adding that extra game without an extra bye week just creates more opportunities for injuries, wear and tear, and it takes a toll on their bodies. And then also, maybe possibly even worse is the fact that now NFL players are making less per game than they were when they signed their latest contract. That, of course, could change with different advertising money and all of that, but it's an extra game, less rest time, less money. So, Jackie, do you agree or disagree with Alvin's tweet? What's your reaction to it?
I'm 100% right. When we talked about this last year, I was on this train. I remember Pouncey and a couple other guys had gotten together and tried to tell the younger guys, this is not it. This is not a good contract. And if you're all about the money, then we'll get together and help you guys out with that. But I think one of the things that you guys have to realize is that when you're talking about the NFL and a 16-game season, now it's pretty fair because you'll get the same number of games as home as you get away. But now it's going to be unfair to a couple of teams because a couple of teams are going to get 9 home games and a couple of teams are going to get only 8 home games. So that's an advantage. Maybe you're not thinking of it as an advantage right now because we're in the middle of this pandemic, but that's not going to be a forever thing. This is just a money grab. And I think every time we talk about the NFL, one of the things I always fall back on is that Mark Cuban quote from 2014. Y'all know Mark Cuban he's my business goat. I love that man. And I found it, so I'm just going to read it to you. He says, just watch. Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. When you try to take it too far, people turn the other way. I'm telling you, when you've got a good thing, you get greedy. It always, always turns on you. That is the first rule of business. So that's what he said about the NFL. So I agree with that. You can't always push, for this money thing. You can't, because this is a physical sport. We're not even talking about, the NBA. Yes, we've seen a ton of injuries in the NBA, but it's not to the level of, this is a whole body sport. Your whole body is involved in this sport. Your injuries can be not only much, much greater, the impact of it after you retire can be much, much greater. So to me, it's an oxymoron to say, hey, let's add another game on to this season while simultaneously saying, hey, we're concerned about player safety. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't know how you make these two things add up. For one thing, if you're really concerned about player safety, not only should you not be adding another game to the season, You shouldn't have West Coast teams going to the East Coast on a Thursday night. It doesn't make sense. You shouldn't have them going overseas to play. It doesn't make sense. There's a lot of things that you could change right now that would make it seem like you are concerned about player safety that they're just not doing. Adding this game on there is another one. They're concerned 100% about money. I'm not surprised that this is happening now. We knew it was going to come, but especially when the NFL has been very, very open about the fact that they've lost revenue because of this pandemic, this coming right now is a perfect timing for that. But it's just a blatant slap in the face to me, showing that they don't care about player safety. They care about the money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I feel like that's so obvious too, and that's the kind of thing that's going to end up biting them in the butt later. You know, if you're putting the players on the line and then they're unable to play or the games are not as exciting, that's still going to impact the revenue because people aren't going to want to watch if their favorite player is injured or out or whatever. So it's hard for me to wrap my mind around this. I understand adding an extra game is going to help them make up for that lost revenue, but like, at what? At the expense of what? The very people that the world is tuning in or the country is tuning in to watch? It doesn't make sense. And a lot of people seem to think that players are already falling apart with these 16 games schedule. So do you agree with that, Jackie, that this just adds on another layer of like hardship and it's just going to make it worse?
Yeah, and the NFL can't do what we see in the NBA. You can't really do load management in the NFL. You can't go out there and not play with your number one quarterback. You can't go out there and not play with your number one wide receiver, your running back. You can't do that because your squads just aren't built that way. So you have to add another game, especially I think that the position, well, I'm concerned about all positions, you know, but we talk about the running back position or the lineman position. These are guys that are taking hits that we don't even really see, you know, how hard and how devastating those hits are, and now you're going to just add another game onto it. I read an article, I think it was a year or so ago, that the number of kids that are going into Pop Warner, you know, the league that the little kids go to, has dropped by 20% in the last 2 years, because now we understand more about CTE and the damages this causes long term, which means that parents are slowly they're starting to move away from putting their kids in the football. And it's because the NFL has not properly addressed safety. They'll say stuff like, oh, we're going to teach you how to tackle. A lot of the rules that they've put in place to prevent certain tackles have made injuries worse because now guys are hitting low or they don't know how to hit, and so they're overthinking it, and then they're making injuries worse. So eventually you're going to have so many kids that either are playing late in life or not playing at all that it's going to be a problem for the league. So this is another hash mark in, okay, the NFL don't give a damn. That's all it is. And if you really want to maintain your fan base, especially when you're talking about parents who want to protect their children no matter what, and make them think that, okay, once my kid gets 35 and they retire from the NFL, they're not going to have a 70-year-old mind because of all the hits and stuff they've taken. It's a different situation. You know what I mean? So I think the NFL just really needs to do much, much better at addressing the safety of the league.
Yeah, actually, that fact that you just brought up about participation in Pop Warner football dropping by 20%, I didn't know that. And that's actually shocking. And it's something that I even have thought about as, you know, somebody who would like to have children one day. I think about how I wouldn't even want my sons or daughters playing football or anything remotely close to that much contact because it is really scary and there's so many opportunities for injuries. Do you feel like there's something that NFL players can do to get together and sort of protest the addition of this extra game, or do you feel like they will really have no say and it's just about dealing with the higher ups?
I mean, they had to say before signing this agreement. So, you know what I mean? This is the thing. And this has always been one of the points of contention I've always had for the NFL. The majority of the people that are in the NFL have come from nothing. They've come from families that, you know, they are their family's meal ticket. They are the saving grace for their entire family. So when that's and I'm not knocking that. I don't want that to sound wrong. Look, do what you got to do. I think it's a beautiful thing that the NFL is allowing a lot of these guys to do exactly what they love, play the game that they love, and provide for their family. But when that is the majority of your makeup as far as the NFL goes, then it is money. It's all about money. So you dangle this little carrot in front of them and say, hey, you know, you're going to get this, even if it's like a 2% increase. Now everybody's salivating because that's 2% more than I had last season. So the NFL it just, their demographic is going to continue to allow these kinds of things to happen because at the end of the day, they hear dollar signs. And it's, I mean, we live in a capitalistic society, so I'm not downing that. It just is what it is. Money makes the world go round, right? But that's the end goal for all of these players that voted for it, especially these guys that are not the stars on their team. You say, I'm going to make a little bit more. That means something to me because that changes the narrative for me. So this could have been prevented by the players, but there's more players who don't get paid these huge contracts than there are the ones that do get these huge contracts. So they're going to always vote for more money. So it makes sense. And those are the guys, when you're doing your marketing campaign, those are the ones you appeal to. You go and you say, oh, you know, you're going to make this more money. Oh, we're not going to ding you for weed, which is not entirely true. That whole thing with the weed thing is entirely convoluted. So it's just one of those things that you just kind of reach the people who you know are going to hear you because they need, dare I say, want that extra money. So, you know, they could have prevented this, but they didn't. So now, you know, I'm sure Alvin Kamara, you know, Russell Wilson was the same. He was very open. I think the only person that I saw that was really about that life was Ryan Fitzpatrick, which pretty much tells you all you need to know about this rule. So, yeah, it's just one of those things.
Yeah, it is interesting how the players that make up the NFL in general can be on, you know, such opposite sides. But after Alvin posted this tweet, I was just looking at some of the replies that he got, and there was one person in there who was like, you get paid millions of dollars to play a sport once a week, you'll be all right. And there just seems to be this lack of understanding and a lack of sympathy for, like, yes, when you frame it like that, it sounds like nothing. Oh yeah, he plays football once a week. But it's so much more than that. Football is not just playing football. It's not going on the beach and tossing a football to your friend. No, this is hugely physical and really dangerous. So I wish people would understand that because it's frustrating to see those kinds of tweets. I think that Alvin was fully in his right to tweet that. And, you know, maybe it's something that the NFL doesn't love to see or hear about online. But, like, I mean, for him, it is dumb as hell. So I'm not upset about this. And I think people need to put themselves in the players' shoes a little bit more. But that wraps up Need to Know News. And now let's get into the post-up. I know we have a lot to talk about, Jackie, so I'm excited about this one.
Yes, let's get into it. I just want to real quick say to Kevin Lang, I see you in the chat, because that's a good point that I didn't even consider. When OJ was playing, there was only 14 games. So they've been leveling up this money grab for a while. So good point, Kevin. I see you. So let's go to this first one, you guys, because you guys know that I am obsessed with all things King James family. So I have to be upfront about this first one. I'm not entirely sure that this is a real post, because BRONNY lives on TikTok. If you guys are on TikTok, he doesn't post a lot, but if he does, he posts on TikTok, occasionally Instagram. He's never on Twitter. I don't know if he's on Snapchat. Snapchat is like not the spot for most of us anymore. But word on the street is he posted this, you know, once this whole thing with the Nets happened and they leveled up, and he basically, it's a tweet, which kind of, and I echo this sentiment. So that's why I'm like, I'm not 100% sure if he posted this. He says all this is for, you know, a 36-year-old man is in his 18th season. And this is the post from Enes Kanter that I know is real and that I do believe. Because then Adrian Woj posted, he says the Nets still have one more roster spot to use in the buyout. And Enes Kanter was like, all right, so who they going to get? Thanos or Jesus? Like, and I totally agree with that sentiment. Like, why? What are we talking about? Like, who? You guys are y'all trying to collect all the Infinity Stones? What is happening right now? Enes Kanter wins. If I need to start a new category, and it's gonna have to be the tweet of the week for me. Enes is the front runner for that one, because that is spot on. This is asinine. I can't wait to see who they get for this last spot, because now I'm just gonna be like, okay, this is stupid. But let's go on to this next. Devin, you have something to say about that? Do you think? Let me just ask you real quick. Do you think that tweet? That Snapchat. Are you even on Snapchat anymore?
Yes,
am I the only one who's not?
I'm on Snapchat. Okay. No, I use it. I use Snapchat.
Oh, wow,
and okay. One thing that I've noticed, I know for us and maybe the celebrities and people that we're most interested in, Snapchat is not a big platform to use, but for the Gen Z kids, like like Bronny, like Zaire, like you remember that girl Bad Baby who was on Dr. Phil? She's the Cash Me Outside girl. She's all over Snapchat. So I think that for the younger people, Snapchat is still really, really big. I know that a lot of Gen Z kids will only use Snapchat to communicate with their friends. They don't text, they don't DM, it's all Snapchat. So I'm definitely inclined to believe that Bronny posted this. And if he did, if it is true, which I think it is, I absolutely love it.
Yeah, no, the sentiment is spot on. It's 100%. That's why I was like, I don't know. I'm barely on Snapchat. I go on there a couple of times because it lets me see where my friends, I have friends who've traveled a lot. So I love the little map so I can see where they are now. But other than that, I don't really use it. But let's go on to this next one because this next one is very, very, very understandable to me because Norman Powell has been with the Toronto Raptors for 6.5 seasons, you guys. So all of his professional career, he has been with the Toronto Raptors. So that feels like home to him. So on his first game since the trade happened, since they traded him to Portland, I'm even getting confused saying it. This is what happened. Y'all take a look at this. This is hilarious.
Norman Powell has a ring. And look at lining up on the wrong side.
He was so dead with it. Like, oh, let me just casually skip on back to the other side. That is hilarious to me. But y'all, I just want to make sure because this one, I'm surprised we didn't talk about this because this is not the first time this has happened. When Blake went over to the Nets and the first time they played the Pistons after that, we caught him all on camera accidentally cheering for the Pistons. So let me show you that real quick. I'm just going to show you that because I don't think y'all saw that. So take a look. So watch, here come this basket. Here go. Oh, let me knock. Let me. You forget. You forget.
So funny.
I can see that all the time, all the time. Sometimes when I'm on other podcasts and they go to me to close and I was like, thanks for watching the fun. I am not on the Fumble. Let me change my whole narrative. So it happens all the time. I'm not mad at it. I think it's adorable. But I'm going to tell y'all this right now. I see y'all in the chat doing this whole LeBron shade. And I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. People who hate on LeBron James are weird to me. The mindset doesn't make any sense to me. Especially when you have people in the league like KD who's done the exact same thing, or even Kawhi has changed teams. None of y'all talk about that, but I digress. So we're gonna go into this next one because for me, KD needs to spend more time with Kyrie because if you remember, not too long ago, I forget what it was about. I think somebody was asking him about him being moody or whatever, and Kyrie was like, people who worry about what other people think about them, I feel bad for them because if that's who you are as a person, if you're always worried about what other people think of you, that train never ends. You're always going to be worried about that. KD is not there yet. KD, we know, worries about what people say about him. If he didn't, he wouldn't need a burner account. So this whole thing shows that KD cares not only a little bit, but he cares a lot. So this whole Twitter thread starts going, and this first guy said, this is why I don't watch the NBA no more. The Warriors ruined it. Now the Nets make it worse. They both got one common denominator, this guy, Kevin Durant. So then Kevin Durant sees that this doesn't warrant a response to me. Feel how you feel about me. Unmoved. Why do you need to respond to this? But he does. He says, I see you took all this personally, LMAO. And then another guy comments back and he says, I see you really can't lead a team on your own. Now, y'all need to pay attention because I see y'all in the chat talking about, oh, he needs a team. Maybe y'all don't watch enough basketball, but it's a team sport. It's not just one guy on the court. It's not tennis. So Kevin Durant's point is 100% spot on. He says, I'll never be able to do anything I really want to do on earth by myself. That's a fact. Everything that you talk about, when you talk about Beyonce and her big success, you can credit that to her mom and her dad because they were her team. Y'all out here in the chat mad, maybe you don't have a team yet. Maybe you're not a good team, at least, where a bunch of people have your back and are going for a common goal. But Kevin Durant, I'm going to have to, even though I still think you care too much, you're freaking Kevin Durant. Why do you care what these people think about you? But that was 100%, so 100% that my new favorite, Tampa Bay Tom, decided that he wanted to comment on it. And he said, absolutely right. Always about teamwork. Now, regardless of what we think about Tom Brady, that's the one thing we all can agree on. every team, all of his teammates say that he is the best teammate that they've ever had, and he brings out the best of him in them, and that's what it's all about. It's about teammates. So all shade aside, I got one more tweet from this whole rant, because this is just asinine to me. It says, also, why is Kevin Durant always got to come to Twitter after? And this is the point, Kevin Durant. Why has he got to come to Twitter after we make him feel insecure about the moves he makes? If you gonna get 5 All-Stars, then that can make the finals without you, then do it. Stop making moves, then come to Twitter for validation. And then Kevin Durant says, because I knew y'all would be on here crying and I smelled blood in the water, so I'm here to fulfill the prophecy. Don't fulfill those prophecies, Kevin Durant. You're Kevin Durant. You don't need to worry about what the fat guy in the basement is typing about you on Twitter. You just don't have to do that. So while I do like the teammate tweet, I don't like that you always run to Twitter to clap back at people who are completely irrelevant to your life, your legacy, and your bank account. I don't like it. Devin, what do you think? Is it just me? I don't like that he always has time. I have time, but I'm not Kevin Durant. I don't like that he always has time.
So I like that it gives us something to discuss here. It's always funny to see when KD gets in his feelings. People get mad at me when I say that, but he gets in his feelings and he feels the need to go onto Twitter and start clapping back at people. And it is humorous, it's amusing, but ultimately, I think he was trying to do something when he said, I'm just here to fulfill the prophecy. And I think what he doesn't realize is that people tweet him and tag him and mention him like that because they know he's going to continue to fulfill the prophecy. The real cool thing would be is if we saw him just ignore these tweets for a couple months or, a year. That would be so great. It would be like, wow, maybe KD really has just put the blinders up. He's not focusing on the haters. He doesn't feel the need to come in and start defending himself on Twitter or Instagram or whatever it is, but he'll never do that. We just expect him to. So people, it's like poking the bear. You expect the bear to erupt one day, so they're going to keep doing it. It's just funny, but I do think that teamwork tweet, it was really meaningful and powerful, and I did appreciate that as well. I thought that was a really good message for him to send. And if he's going to clap back at anybody, it needs to be something like that. Something that holds a lot of weight and really makes you think like, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, he could have tweeted that, dropped the mic, and moved on. You know what I mean? Because then now the later tweets came when he kept engaging people. You said what you said. Move on. You know what I mean? I do that. People come to my Instagram all the time. And I say what I say do my little long dissertation, and y'all can fight amongst yourselves. Now I said what I said. I don't have nothing else to say. So because now that makes them more mad, which is fun for me. You know what I mean? Because now they're going back and forth. Oh, no, you don't have nothing to say. No, I don't. Said what I said. So let's move on to this next one, because this next one is good too. Sometimes when I'm scrolling through on Instagram, especially when it's like an older person and I see their picture come up, I'm automatically like, oh, damn, did they die? This is ridiculous. And so I hate when I see tweets like this, but a Spurs fan account posted this graphic. Now, if you don't know, the Spurs are on a 5-game losing streak, in part because Lonnie Walker has been sidelined for a wrist injury. So when you see this, it says Spurs Nation, let's all wish Lonnie Walker a speedy recovery. And then it looks, it's one of I could just hear the music, the sad music and the praying hand emojis. And I'm like, damn, what happened? So I go to look up his injury because I thought he had just a minor injury. Turns out I'm right. And he tweeted back at it because he's like, well, damn, this is a lot. He says, all this for a wrist? I almost said R.I.P. my damn self. 100%. When I saw that tweet, I was like, oh, no, how did I miss this? What is going on? It's just a wrist injury. But let me just tell you something. I love a good dad joke. You guys, if you're new here, you might not know this. I'm going to give you a really good dad joke on this rest in peace from this user. Check out this tweet because I love it. He says, rest in peace, Holmes.
I love that. It's so good.
It's just the little things that make me smile, and then I in turn share them with you. But I love a good dad joke, so that one was fantastic. This next clip that I'm going to show you is a little longer than I normally show you. I try to keep them down to like 40, 50 seconds. But I absolutely love Bradley Beal, and this conversation he's having with these young people is so important. I don't think anything happened that was like what we saw with Cam Newton and that young kid and how he was being completely disrespectful. I do think there was probably a level of whining of some way that happened. But he just let these young guys know life is hard, the league is hard, and staying in the league is a grind. And it's a very small number of kids that make it into the NBA. So watch how he motivates these kids with just nothing but 100% realness. And I love this. Take a look.
Respecting the game means a lot, bro. On and off the court. How you carry yourself, all that shit matter, man. Y'all gotta understand, when you go to college, you don't get away with this shit, man. You get to the league, you don't get away from it. They take your bread, bro. You walk around this motherfucker, moping and pounding around, bro, it's either one or two things gonna happen where you at. They gonna ship your ass off, or they gonna wave your ass, or you ain't gonna have no job. They just gonna say, here, just take the money, we don't even want you. That's the two options you got in the league. And I don't never like pulling my NBA card, ever. But bro, y'all, it's only 400. That mean if you got dreams to get into the league, you gotta play me. You gotta guard me. And guess what? Can't none of y'all motherfuckers guard me. Ain't none of y'all taking my job. I'm chilling. I can retire today and live on the beach for the rest of my life. And my mom and dad not work another day. Or my brothers. That's the type of good y'all want to be. That's what y'all want. Everything is grimy and gutter where we from, bro. So everything is going to be that much harder for us.
I love that. It's one of those things where it's like, you're not good enough to even beat me right now. If you're trying to leave where you came from, all this, whatever you talking about, that ain't it. You just got to respect the game, respect the process, and play your heart out. This was so motivational to me. I think this should be shown in locker rooms, in high school and college, around the country. But Devin, really quickly, what were your thoughts on this speech? And it's longer. It's about a 2-minute. I only showed you a minute and 18 seconds of it. So there's a whole nother minute left. If you have some time, go on Twitter and check it out. But of what you saw thus far, what did you think of that?
I mean, I think that he's doing a really good job. I think having that kind of conversation with, telling them to maintain this like level of professionalism both on and off the court is really valuable, and it's a good advice. And I like seeing him in that position, kind of sharing his insight and being this like motivating, inspiring person. So yeah, I really appreciated that.
I would have loved for him to say, y'all couldn't even beat the white mamba. You know you can't beat me. But, he probably didn't even see that dumb video. That would have been so dope. All right, so let's get into this next one. Because this one is interesting. Remember what Draymond said about, it was a while ago, and he went on that rant, and he was talking about like how the league treats the athletes, and asked the question, do you really think that these guys don't take it personal when they're pouring their heart and soul into a franchise and then you just ship them off? Do you think that doesn't play with their minds mentally? And how are you going to keep talking about mental health, but you're not even considering that? So in that same vein, I love how open Lou Williams was and how he was honest about what he was feeling when he got traded. So he posted this to his Instagram, and basically it just tells exactly what his thought process was and how he was feeling. He says, and this hurt my heart when he said this. He says, so I thought about retiring yesterday. You give so much to an organization, you wake up and boom, it's no more. Then in true Clipper Nation fashion, I was reminded that my talent and my contribution was appreciated, and it made me reflect on what's to come. There's plenty left in my tank, and I'm privileged to continue my career in my backyard. LA, thank you, love you, appreciate you, great times and memories. ATL Louisville, Mr. Williams, welcome home. So that's a real moment to me, the moment where you really feel like this is your home, you've got your crew with you, you guys are building together, and then you're just out. That's got to be heartbreaking, especially when it doesn't seem like he saw it coming. If all of a sudden you're like, oh yeah, if I can't play with my crew, I don't even want to play, I'm going to go ahead and retire. That definitely was a hard blow to him. I'm glad that he opened up about it because, like Devin said earlier, when we're talking about football, I think when people make a certain amount of money, the rest of us who don't make that money all of a sudden feel like they're void of feelings, like they don't have these internal conversations and these internal battles that all of us have. So for him sharing this, I thought it was so important. So I have nothing else to say about that except for I thought it was really dope. Devin, did you have anything to add?
I mean, I think it's good whenever athletes are willing to open up about the things that they struggle with mentally, and I think we need to see more of that. So, great that Will was able to just be honest about it. But I have to say, I was surprised, and I'm not even trying to trivialize this whole thing, but he loves Atlanta and,
Right.
being able to be near Magic City. Not that that would really be much of a motivating factor, but you would think that I didn't think it would be as serious for him to consider retiring. Like, I have to admit, I'm a little bit surprised to learn that he took it so hard. But yeah, when you do put your blood, sweat, and tears into a franchise and you're used to being there and you've lived somewhere for a long time, it would feel like a bit of a betrayal to then just be shipped off somewhere else. But at least he's familiar with the city. He has his local joints that he can go to, pay his friends a visit at Magic City and get some wings, and yeah, I think it'll be good.
Yeah, he'll come around, but I definitely respect that feeling because I think I've been there as well. Not as far as like on a basketball team, but I thought, okay, this is it. I'm working towards something, and then it doesn't work out, and it's like, okay, well, damn, you know what I mean? It's just that deflating feeling that you have to get over. So, mad respect for him being honest about this. And again, anytime you can humanize these guys, because again, just because they make a whole bunch of money does not mean they're not human and they don't have feelings. So shouts out to Lou for being honest with that. So let's get into this next one, because for this next one, anytime I do something crazy, so y'all heard my mom try to call in to my face. I gotta figure out how to turn that off, but she probably was calling to call me by my full name, because why else you calling me this early, mama? So I'm gonna have to do Evan Marcel Turner this way. I'm gonna call you by your full name, because this clapback was so savage. If you guys remember Evan Marcel, though, when he was playing in the league, he was the funny guy. He was the one that was always clowning, and his clown game is really, really strong. So if you don't remember, though, he did play in Portland, so he must still have like a house or something out there, because he basically offers to sell it. So the Trailblazers post double tap to welcome Norman Powell to Rip City. And then Evan Turner lets him know, hey, I still got a house out there. He said, ask him if you're trying to buy a crib a mile from the arena, 10 minutes from the practice facility. And then some Yahoo feels like Evan, every dime that he earned with the Trailblazers was stolen. So he says, hopefully you left the money you stole buried in the backyard. And then here come Evan Turner. And I'm about to take a deep breath for this one, because damn, this is a lot. He said, he claps back to the guy and he says, I took most of it down to the club, to Club Rouge, and threw it at your girl and her friends. How you think your phone is still on?
That's a good one.
I'm gonna DM him, and every time somebody come for me on Instagram or Twitter, I'll be like, give me something to say. Give me something to say, because this was and just nothing else, just radio silence. Dude didn't say nothing back. A couple guys were like, oh, you didn't have to do him like that. Look, somebody in the chat said the same thing to me earlier. You don't have to come at me like that. Yo, you put your business on in the atmosphere, in the social atmosphere, you get what you get. And yep. So this is, you get what you get, and I love it. It was so savage, though. I really got to step my savagery up, because oh boy didn't come back for no more after that. And I'm sorry, that just made me giggle just internally. It was fantastic. So let's move on to this next one. Like we talked about, the NFL is moving on to their 17-game season, and Devin touched on it a little bit, because we talked about Alvin Kamara and his feeling about it. So he did tweet that. So let me show you his tweet, where he basically said, oh, nah, it's dumb as hell. Well, at least Devin and I can agree with that. So he also tweeted this, where this guy DM'd him about the situation, and which is hilarious to me, because I just don't know how you decide you want to DM somebody about this. So he goes, 17 games still dumb. Why are you so mad? So let me read you this tweet if I can pull the whole thing up really quick. All right, here we go. So it says, You play kid sport all your life just so you can get to the NFL, and on draft day, when you look into the camera and tell all the fans who love the team that drafted you how hard you're going to. Devin, this would drive you crazy. There's not one comma in here, but
I hate it.
And tell the fans who love the team that drafted you how hard you're going to work to be model citizen, and then you become a millionaire playing a kid's game called football, and you forget everything. Deep breath. You're not cooking, you're not bricklaying, not running a daycare, not waiting tables. You're playing football. All of you that are going to moan and complain about one more game can kiss my effing behind. You're all a dumb bunch of prima donnas, and when you finally get into the NFL and make that money, you become lazy and weak. It's not like one extra game is going to kill you. Gone are the days of real football players that played for the love of the game. Let me tell you about them real football players that played for the love of the game. Most of them are concussed right now and having a very hard post-NFL life without any real assistance from the NFL. So perhaps if you watched a movie like Concussion with Will Smith, shout out to Will Smith, that the NFL literally made a deal with the producers of that film. I forget the name of the producers, but they were like, okay, we'll let you produce the movie if you keep out a chunk of this really detrimental information. So if you watch the movie Concussion and realize that a lot of the really detrimental stuff was left out, it would make your head spin, because the NFL knew for a long time that the health risk that comes along with this game. So these are the kind of people you want to be okay with an extra game. That means an extra opportunity to get whacked in the head. I don't necessarily agree with this sentiment. It still falls back onto what I said earlier. I feel like as a society, once a person makes a certain amount of money, we feel like what they feel about their health, their mental health, or just anything else in life doesn't matter. And that is a weird thought process to me. Devin, I know you said you kind of understood that a little bit, but what do you think about this person and what they said?
Oh, I mean, I feel like this person is wildly off base with what they say, because they're completely downplaying the physical toll that a game like football has on a person. What they wrote in there, one extra game isn't going to kill you. Well, no, like it absolutely could kill you. And maybe it's not going to be an immediate death on the field, but we have seen the way multiple concussions and CTE have affected these football players so deeply that they feel driven to commit suicide or get involved in, something very sinister. So just to kind of reduce it to like a kid's game, yeah, you're not bricklaying, you're not doing that, but like I'd love to see that person get in that, football gear and go out there and play an NFL game. Do you really think that you'd be able to do it? Is it really going to be easy? I don't know. It just, to me, that lack of sensitivity and that lack of empathy for people who do something differently than you, yeah, these players make a ton of money, but money doesn't automatically equate health or happiness. So I don't know. I get really frustrated when people say that kind of thing, because this is a sentiment that I've repeated on the show so many times. Above anything else, these athletes are human, and we need to treat each other like humans. And I don't see that happening in that message.
No, and it's so. I mean, if you're going to DM the guy, DM him and say, "Hey, why do you think this is a bad idea?" Get an insight onto how he feels before you judge him from a couple words on Twitter. It's just the level of entitlement is just weird to me. But I could go on and on about that one, but I'm not, because I'm going to move on to CarMax, because CarMax is the GOAT to me right now, because I'm not in the market for a new car, but maybe when I am, I'll go to CarMax. And the reason is because representation matters, and they nailed it through and through with this ad campaign that they have right now with Sue Bird and Steph Curry. It is awesome. I want y'all to take a look. This is fantastic. I'm so proud of them.
Glad you're back.
What's up, man? Let's do this.
Great. I'll get the paperwork.
What, no haggling?
No pressure either. Just a quality car for an upfront price. Man, if you'd have told me this morning I'd be working with a 4-time champ.
3-time champ.
No, I sold a car to Sue Bird. 11 all-star appearances. Can you imagine?
I mean, I'm working on it.
The way it should be.
First of all, this is perfect. Steph's reaction, like, well, damn, I'm trying. Perfect. Sue Bird in the distance, perfect. This, to me, was a flawless commercial, which is why I hate this next tweet, because people, Google is your friend. So this woman decides to get on her uninformed soapbox, and she says, I get that it's important for the men to be having the conversation, given that men have taken ownership moving the sexism / misogyny needle. Still, it would have been great for Sue Bird to actually have had something to say, a literal voice in the ad. Otherwise, thumbs up. Don't give me a backhanded thumbs up after you done said basically my commercial was trash because Sue Bird didn't get to talk. And like I said, Google is your friend. So take a look at this since you needed it and you didn't want to go look for it on your own, because this whole ad, it's an ad campaign. There's 3 commercials in this ad campaign. Take a look at the second one.
Miss Bird, I'm here with your CarMax home delivery.
Great, come on up.
What's the code?
It's G
G.
O
O.
A
A.
T.
Bird's the goat.
The way it should be.
I love that because Sue Bird is definitely the GOAT. But wait, you guys, there's more. For those of you who are on like all the social media, they got a short social media, like 15-second one that has our boy Woj in it. So take a look at this one.
At CarMax, there's no haggling and no pressure, ever.
Does everyone know this?
I hope so.
So, Sue, what do you need me here for?
Whoa, I value your friendship.
The way it should be.
I love this. I saw somebody in the chat says, who the F is Sue Bird? What did I just say? Google is your friend. As much as we talk about the WNBA on here, if you don't know who Sue Bird is right now, use little typing fingers, type in Sue Bird, hit enter. Okay? You're welcome. All right? So let me, y'all just weird to me. Let's move on to this next one, because y'all remember the grandmother that I was like, no, her favorite player in the world cannot be Danny Green. It is. And remember, she posted this and she wrote down Danny Green. I'm like, that can't be right. It is. And Danny Green, even though I've always said I think he's a really nice guy, but just not my favorite player. But he's going to get some points for this one because he sent grandma an autographed jersey. Take a look.
This is what? Whoa!
What is it? What is it?
Oh!
Oh. That's so cute.
Right?
I think that's right. No, it's better. I need to put the glasses on.
He wrote you a message.
Oh, thank you for picking me.
Aww.
25. Oh,
No, 95.
95. Dan, right? Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Y'all can go check out this whole video because it is great, but we're running a little short on time, so I'm going to cut it short. But she basically does a whole like LeBron thing where she calls the end of the game, and it was like the score was this, and then you did this, and you were the star of the game. I love you, Danny Green. It's so adorable. So Danny Green, I am so excited that you get the opportunity to send this woman a jersey that was not a Laker jersey. That's the best part of this whole story for me. And so congratulations. This grandma and to Danny Green. I love it. I actually love this. It's really, really dope. So we're running a little short on time. So I really want to take a moment to dive into what we not going to do, because this one to me it's getting annoying. I just have to say. And look, I've said it over and over again. We just saw some of you guys in the chat who had no idea who Sue Bird is. That is a problem. One of the reasons why that is a problem is because we don't see their games enough. So when it comes to the WNBA, one of the things that I am really getting tired of, and I don't mean this in a shady way, but I'm really getting tired of over and over and over seeing this conversation about the gap between males in the NBA and their salaries and females in the WNBA and their salaries. It's a stupid conversation to me because you guys don't have the amount of money coming in to the league to really have this conversation. It doesn't make sense to me. And I get tired of the narrative coming with no solutions. Every time I talk about this, I offer a ton of solutions. One of the things that I've always said is the WNBA game should be played either before or after an NBA game, so you get those viewers. The only reason I even found Lucifer, which ended up being one of my favorite shows in the world, and The Masked Singer, was because it came on right after the Super Bowl. So people are lazy sometimes, and they'll just sit and watch whatever is happening. So you need to figure out a way to get more eyes on the WNBA. And right now, that's just not happening. You have to get the viewership up. You have to increase the advertising dollars. You have to increase ticket sales. There's so much that you need to do to get your revenue up before we can start having these conversations. It's not like the WNBA is making the same amount of money as the NBA and just not playing the players. That's not what's happening. So I 100% agree with Draymond Green. And he went on this whole Twitter rant. If you have time, go to Twitter, look up Draymond Green's tweets, and he just goes in. And he starts it with this tweet. I'm not going to post every tweet. I'm just going to read most of them. But he starts it with this tweet that says, to all my lady hoopers out there, I want to share my thoughts. And I ask Diana Cesare, Candace Parker, Sue Bird, Brittany Griner, Nakaya Ogumake, and Skylar Diggs to follow. So I love that he wants to pull them into his conversation, which means to me he's going into this conversation with pure intention. So like I said, his rant is long. I'm not going to show you every single tweet, but his first one says, I've been seeing a lot of talk about the pay gap between women and men, especially in sports. It's not even close. But let's stop allowing y'all complaints to fall on deaf ears due to numbers. As long as y'all make the argument about pay, while the revenue stays the same, they will continue to point at the revenue not being high enough to cover bigger salaries. While this is true in damn near every business, how do we take the card out of their pockets? That's the key to changing the pay. I like this tweet as well. He says, there's no argument for lack of revenue unless you make those say they stand for women actually stand up. The NBA wasn't always a global game that it is today. It wasn't always driving as much revenue as it does now. But there are people behind it building the platform and, more importantly, telling individual stories and building up the interest in the players. That's how the game took off. Who's building y'all up? Who's building your platform? Who's telling the individual stories of how great y'all are? Building the interest and transforming women's basketball into a global game. Then this is the part where I think rubbed a lot of people wrong, because he says, I've been asked to do so many PSAs this month on women empowerment, and I said no, because it's hypocritical, because these same companies that are telling women empowerment are not putting their money where their mouth is. Call on these companies to support y'all, to infuse capital into the business. Stop allowing them to yell women empowerment for the look. No company grows without funding. Y'all business can grow with the proper funding and storytelling. Make these huge companies commit money to y'all's cause. That's women empowerment. Or just don't yell women empowerment. 100% agree with Draymond. I could not have said this any better myself. I thought this was flawlessly said. Because again, this is one of those situations where you keep talking about this pay gap, but nothing has changed in this situation. Again, some women were triggered. So I want to go to this tweet from Alicia Clarendon from the New York Liberty. And she tweeted, she said, shout out to the NBA guys who come to tell people in women's sports that we need to do what we need to do to grow the game. Thanks. Now we'll ask for more resources. Tell the powers at be to tell our stories more and generally just start to push things like the NBA. Problem solved. And I know she meant that with a level of sarcasm, but yes, men aren't going to do it, okay? And I don't know why this is a surprise. Even when we're talking about things like politics, men ain't going to do it. It's taking the women to push the narrative. So why do you think that's different? On top of that, you keep asking the men to help you in this situation, but men have repeatedly said, lower the rim. You don't want to do that. So if you don't want to do it on the terms that the men say you should do it, then you have to do it on your own terms, period. This isn't rocket science. So then Megan Rapinoe, who I love, because y'all know she's with, I don't know if they've got married or they're just engaged, but her and Sue Bird are together. But she says also they call you about doing PSA for Women's Month. Why don't you also tell them all the things we have been telling them since forever? Well, you have to start that dialogue with Draymond. This is Draymond just thinking out loud. I don't know if he knows all the dialogue that you guys have tried to have with him, because I don't. And then she says, and you know who largely are the gatekeepers to that money, investment, resources, capital, time, and sponsorship dollars are? Men. Do you know who men listen to? Other men. Now that's where I disagree, because I have tried so many times. You have to understand, if somebody doesn't really have your best interest at heart, that doesn't mean that you still have to work. You don't have to go through them. You can go around them. And men, as we've seen with the NFL, as we've seen with this stupid all-star thing that the NBA did, the men, the powers that be that are male, are driven by money. You have to kind of set the tone that you can do it by yourself before they'll listen, because you can't do a lockout, because nobody's going to care, right? Because like I said, half the people in this chat don't even know who these WNBA players are. I would go to every digital media outlet like the Fumble. I would make sure that they were at my games, getting sound bites, telling my stories. I would get an agent for every star player in the WNBA and make sure they had appearances in commercials, television, film, whatever. Start building it that way. I would make sure that we had a partnership with smaller media companies like the Fumble to be at my game so they can go live on Instagram, YouTube, whatever at halftime to reach a specific generation of people. I would make sure that a high school in my city, whatever city that your team is in, I would make sure that every game had a high school. We sponsored a high school and all those kids were there. I would start pushing my own narrative in marketing and advertising, in viewership. And then once that needle doesn't even have to move a lot. The second the needle moves a little bit and men realize, oh, this could really be financially viable if we invested more time and money and resources into it. But unfortunately, you have to push the needle first before you get somebody behind you. So what we're not going to do is keep having these same conversations. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. If you want a different result, it has to start with you, ladies. And I know that's irritating, but it's your league. You don't want to do some of the things that men have said that you should do to make that league better. So you have to get it on your own terms, but get it on your own terms and stop crying about something that you can start fixing. So that's all I got for what we not going to do. I hope y'all listen because the Fumble is ready to go to every Sparks game. Let me just tell y'all right now. I'm ready. So just call us. We here.
Yeah, we'll be there. We'll do the interviews. Right. We'll film everything. We would love that. But yeah, Jackie, I think you brought up some great points, and I looked at some of the other tweets that Draymond got as well. And I mean, I see valid points on both sides. It's a complicated issue, but yeah, very interesting one. So thank you so much for covering that and what we're not going to do. And now let's wrap up the show. We're going to be back again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time as usual, you guys. So don't forget to tune in, tap the bell for notifications, and hit that subscribe button, and leave a comment below. Share this video with your friends, and we'll see you guys later. Bye, everybody.